First things first, we're going to go right into House Concurrent Resolution 10. Representative Peterson, Representative Piccolantonio for a first hearing. Welcome to committee. You guys can begin when ready.
Thank you. Do you want me to give a minute?
Yeah, maybe just 1 second. Sorry. Oh, you guys are good. You guys are good. Come on up. Yeah. You guys are fine. Yes. Oh, no, it's my fault. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Chair Hall, Vice Chair Ferguson, Ranking Member Humphrey, and members of the House Government Oversight Committee. Thank you for inviting Representative Peterson and me to provide sponsor testimony for House Concurrent Resolution 10. The first thing that I would like to do is thank my joint sponsor, Representative Peterson, who I know has been working on this for longer than my time in the legislature. But just wanted to thank him for allowing me to participate in the conversation about this. House Concurrent Resolution 10 urges Congress to establish daylight savings time as the permanent standard time across the United States. Currently, states are restricted from implementing permanent daylight saving time due to federal law, which mandates uniform application of time changes across all time zones. As part of this resolution, we strongly urge Congress to pass legislation such as the Sunshine Protection Act of 2025, which would allow permanent daylight savings time to be adopted nationwide. This change would eliminate the need to set our clocks forward every spring and then behind each fall. Since March, we have been on Eastern Daylight Time. An update to this policy would mean that we would remain on this time year-round. I have to be honest, my interest in the issue began when my kids were younger. I have 3 sons that are now college age, but when my kids were younger, as any of you who are parents or grandparents or aunts and uncles might know, my own kids struggled to adapt to the clock changes twice a year every year, and their struggle to adapt meant a loss of sleep for me, which as a busy mom of 3 who worked outside of the house, sleep was at a premium for sure. After that awareness, I started researching and learned about lots of the negative health impacts that all of us have from the clock switching back and forth. So I started to get really curious about why we adjust the clock at all. And I learned that daylight savings time was first adopted during World War I to support wartime industries. It's been reinstated during various national emergencies, including World War II and the 1973 oil crisis. But today, we have the opportunity to modernize this practice and ensure that the benefits of daylight savings time are available to Americans year-round. This resolution is not just about changing the clock, it's about seizing the opportunity to improve lives across the nation. Permanent daylight savings time would provide many benefits, including increased evening daylight, more outdoor playtime for children, expanded economic opportunities, energy savings, improved traffic safety, reduced instances of stroke, heart attack, and other serious health issues, and reductions in crime. This is an issue that is of great importance to families, as I described earlier, but it's also important to communities and businesses alike. And it's critical that we act now. The transition to permanent daylight savings time could provide lasting positive impact across the state of Ohio and nationwide. You may or may not know, I'm sure you know that this is an issue that has been discussed for many years, but what you may not know is that in 2022, the U.S. Senate passed that year's version of the bill, but just last week, the Senate Commerce Committee again took steps toward advancing this legislation. Demonstrating Ohio's enthusiastic backing of this policy could encourage our federal legislators to pass the Sunshine Protection Act into law. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of this resolution. I will turn it over to my joint sponsor, Representative Peterson, and after he testifies, either one of us are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chairman Hall, Vice Chair Ferguson, Ranking Member Humphrey. Glad to see my ranking member again. Members of the House Government Oversight Committee, truly appreciate giving the time, and I also appreciate my joint sponsor for pointing out that I failed to accomplish this for over 10 years. In all fairness, it is a federal issue, and there's lots of things at the federal level that maybe they should have accomplished that they have not. But so effectively, how we now operate, we operate 238 days out of the year under daylight savings time. So 65% of each year we operate under daylight savings time. The rest we operate under what's known as standard time. Frankly, I don't care which way it is. This resolution prefers daylight savings time because I think that's what most Ohioans would choose. In fact, most legitimate surveys suggest that 65 to 70% of people prefer daylight savings times over permanent time if they had a choice one way or the other. It sort of depends on whether you are a morning person or an evening person, whether you want that extra hour of sunshine in the evening or in the morning. So one study, and why do we want to quit the time change? One study conducted in Australia in 2008 suggested that the shift in demand consistent with activity patterns are tied to our clock rather than the morning sunrise or sunset. With modern electricity lights, we don't operate on the sun anymore. We operate in relation to the clock. That's what sets our schedules. Another study out of Indiana, also in 2008, this shows you how far back I've been working on this issue, suggests that actual energy usage can, in that study, increase by 4%. So there's no savings in electricity. There's no savings in energy, which is one of the original goals of daylight savings time when first implemented. One of the real concerns with staying on daylight savings time is that historically ensuring the safety of school children who are walking to school or waiting for school buses can be a challenge in dark mornings. There are several potential solutions. One is school districts might simply adjust their start times back in the wintertime to account for the less hours of sunshine. This might solve that problem. Another suggestion echoed by the American Medical Association, the importance of this would be that in general, a later start time is recommended by the AMA to help student learning. So there's reasons for doing it both for safety and for student learning. As far as adults are concerned, after a daylight saving time change, most adults sleep 40 minutes or less on average that first week. The day after the time change, 5.7% more workplace injuries occur, and with a loss of 67.6% more work days because of these injuries following the spring shift. Accident rates go up significantly on the Monday following daylight savings time, with more fatal accidents and more fender benders, and permanent daylight savings time is one way to reduce these accidents. Later in my testimony, I've got some chart changes from 2019 that demonstrates sunrise, sunset, and then proposed sunrise and sunset. And what you see is there's no way of cheating the clock. You either get sunshine in the morning or sunshine in the afternoon. And in those winter hours when there's very little sunshine in general in Ohio, you get to pick whether it's you're getting off the school bus, coming home from work in the dark, or whether you're going to school and going to work in the morning in the dark. It's a choice we get to make. And as my joint sponsor shared, this is really a federal issue. And certainly the last thing we want is Ohio to be an island separate from the states that surround us. That's bad for the economy, bad for people traveling back and forth. But we do think this is a real problem that needs to be resolved, and we urge, as this resolution does, urges Congress to act. And we are not alone in this. Since 2015, well over 450 bills have been introduced to set permanent in those states across this great country. We look forward to any questions you might have, and hopefully this joint sponsor can resolve this issue, unlike my past.
Well, thank you both for your sponsor testimony today and for coming into committee. Members, are there any questions for Representative Stevens?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to both of you. And as Representative Peterson was my state senator for a long, long time, I know he's been working on this for a long time. I think one of the most interesting dynamics of this are the health implications. I was looking, there on the phone, it's almost 24% more heart attacks on the Monday after the time change. It's just remarkable. And this past year, I went down to visit my kids in Nashville, which were on Central Time that Sunday. So we lost like 2 or 3. I don't know what time it was. I didn't know what time it was for a week. So can you mentioned this, I believe, Representative Peterson, about, we don't want to be, kind of our own island on the times. Are there any other states that are, that you know of, that are our neighbors that are advocating their Congress members do this as well?
Yes, over time, I haven't looked up recently this year, but Indiana has been a leader on this issue, encouraging Congress to act. They've actually at various times put bills before them to, if other states acted around them, they would also act. In the country right now, Hawaii operates under their own time, year-round. Arizona does also. But I don't think there's any, because of our interconnections with Indiana, with Kentucky, Pennsylvania, Michigan, West Virginia, I don't think it makes any sense for us to be separate from those states. That's why it's important for Congress to act.
Any other questions from Representative Troy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, representatives. I know we have a long history of sending resolutions to Congress asking them to do anything, and I'm trying to remember if we have any record of one that we've sent over there they've actually did what we asked them to do. But I'm glad you brought up the point, because I'm one of the few people that was around in 1973 when Nixon went to permanent daylight savings time. It only was for that year, early 1974, I think, after the 1973 oil embargo. And if I recall, there were a lot of complaints about, as you mentioned, Representative Peterson, school children out there in pretty solid darkness in the morning to go to school. I think you've suggested that maybe the schools need to adjust their hours and things like that. But the fact that it did exist in 1970, early 1974, and it was discontinued short after that means it wasn't a outstanding change in terms of this particular thing. Any thought? I know a lot of other people think we should go back to permanent regular time and get rid of daylight savings time. I know you've mentioned, Representative Piccolantonio, about increased outdoor activity for children. We're in Ohio, so there's not a lot of outdoor activity that takes place between the second week of November and the first week of March. So I guess I think we really need to look at some of the things you mentioned that are problematic here and how we could address them, because, again, it wasn't well received in 1974.
Through the chair to Representative Troy, I guess I would just say a few things. Number one, I have kids who definitely play outside in those weeks of winter, despite the cold and the lack of sunshine. Number two, I would just, and I think I can say on behalf of both of us, I don't think either one of us is actually particularly wed to daylight savings times permanently or standard time permanently. We introduced it in this way because, as Representative Peterson says, surveys show that this is the route that is most popular. But if through the committee there's a determination made that we want to amend it to do it the other way, I think we would be open to that conversation. The real issue is in the back and forth, the changing of the clocks twice a year, and the impact, the negative impact that change has on people's health, on workplace injuries, on all kinds of things. And then I guess the third thing that I would reiterate is I say this as someone who would not want to mandate to schools to adjust their start times. However, the research does back up that for a lot of young people, particularly those in the teen years, actually their biological clocks are set to start a little bit later. I know a lot of school districts are looking at that issue and making adjustments to start times as they can, separate and apart from this.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you both for your testimony today.
Thank you.
This will conclude the first hearing on House Concurrent Resolution 10.